This video is on subtracting polynomials. They're pretty simple. All you have to do is look for the symbol in the middle of the parentheses. I see that it is a minus sign, so that means our first step is to distribute the negative. A minus and a negative are the same thing, so if you hear me using both words, it's because they're the same. So I'm going to distribute the negative. It goes to the back when you distribute. So this first parentheses is actually going to be left alone, and we're going to take this negative and we're going to multiply it to however many terms are in the following parentheses. Okay, so it's just drawing the arrow. So like I said, the first parentheses, nothing changes. You just basically lose the parentheses and bring everything down. 4x squared plus 8x, exactly the same as before. But now we have to distribute the negative to the following parentheses. So this is a negative 1. Remember, if you don't see a number out there, it's a 1 times a positive 6. Negative 1 times positive 6 is a negative 6. The x squared just stays with it. So minus 6x squared. And after you do these two, then you have to go to the other term in the parentheses, which is negative 2x squared. Negative 2x. So be careful with this because you have to multiply a negative times a negative, which turns into a positive 2x. And if you notice, the only thing that changed were the signs. It was a positive 6, now it's a negative 6. It was a negative 2, now it's a positive 2. And we are done with step 1. We distributed the negative. Now after that, you just combine like terms. So you just find your matches basically. X squared, x squared. So I'm going to put this one and this one together. And x to the first power, x to the first power. So we're going to put these two together. Once you find your matches, just combine them based off of the coefficients. Remember, the coefficients are the large numbers in front of the variable. So this will be 4 minus 6. 4 minus 6 is a negative 2, and the x squared follows. So put those two together. We're done with those. Now for these two, again, just look at the coefficients. It's a positive 8 and a positive 2. So what is 8 plus 2? 8 plus 2 is 10. So plus 10, and they both have an x, so we need to keep the x. And that is it. We have just subtracted these two binomials. Now, as another example, I have this one right here. Yes, I know it looks a little bit more than the one before, but we're going to follow the same steps and do it the exact same way. So, if you remember from the first example, you just look in between the parentheses. I see a minus sign, so that means I'm going to have to distribute the negative. So we now have 1, 2, 3 terms in this parentheses. So instead of multiplying twice like we did before, we are now going to multiply 3 times. Okay. And just as last time, the first parentheses stays the same. Just drop the parentheses. So negative 3x squared plus 9x plus 5. same as before. But now we have to distribute the negative. Again, this is a negative 1. So it's just negative 1 times negative 7. Negative 1 times 6. Negative 1 times negative 5. If they have variables attached, just keep them. And that's what we're about to do. So a negative 1 times a negative 7 is a positive 7. But I have to keep my x squared because they belong together. Then a negative 1 times a positive 6 is a negative 6, but I need to keep my x. And then we have a negative 1 times a negative 5, which is a positive 5. So I've distributed to all three terms in the parentheses, and now it's time to combine like terms. So again, with combining like terms, just find your matches. If you need to, you can color code things. You can do like I did in the first example, use different shapes or markings to denote the matches. This time I'll color code. So I want to start with my x squareds. Let's see, the negative 3x squared. I want to make sure I include the negative. And then we have a positive 7x squared. I see that I have a 9x, so that means I'm looking for something else that only has an x to the first power, which is over here with the negative 6x. Again, make sure you include your negative. And then I need to find a match for my constants. So we have a positive 5 here, and we also have a positive 5 here. So I have 2 pinks, 2 greens, 2 blues, and now we're going to put them together for our final answer. So try to always start with the highest exponent. So the 2's, the squares, we're going to go first. Negative 3 plus 7, or you can say 7 minus 3, is just 4, but we're going to keep the x squared. If you want to scratch them out as you go, you can, to keep yourself organized. Then we're going to go in descending order from there. So if this was a 2, then the next one I should be looking for is a 1. That's the green ones right here. So this is going to be 9 minus 6. And 9 minus 6 is just a positive 3. And we have to keep the x. Done with those, so you can scratch them out if necessary. And then if you notice, we just have the 2 blues left, the 2 constants. So just combine those. 5 plus 5 is 10. So our final answer is 4x squared plus 3x plus 10. And that is subtracting polynomials.